Hi, my name's Demetria Chelepy, and I am the Senior Legal Counsel and Compliance Officer at Sharesies. And I am absolutely thrilled today to be joined by Glen James of My Millennial Money. Now, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, water and sky on which we come to you from today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Now, you're probably wondering why the lawyer is coming here, and it is because I am fantastic at disclaimers. So I am going to give a bit of a quick disclaimer to let you know that investing does involve risk and you aren't guaranteed to make money. And you might lose the money that you start with. We don't provide personal advice or product recommendations. So if we do mention a particular product or investment, it is just an example, and any information that we do provide is general in nature and current at the time that we provide it. If you do need help with your investment choices, we recommend talking to a licensed financial advisor. Now, today is a very exciting show, and I am expecting a lot of laughs and learning, as my guest is a host of many great money conversations on his podcast, My Millennial Money. I've actually been an avid listener for a couple of years, so I am so excited to be joined by Glen James, who is a former financial advisor. He's the author of Sort Your Money Out and Get Invested, and the creator of media business SYMO Interactive. So could you please start by maybe telling us a little bit about My Millennial Money for those who haven't heard your amazing work before, and how it came to be?
Well, thanks for having me, Demetria. And I'm a bit in shock because I didn't think I'd be doing a podcast with a lawyer today, but whatever, we're here now.
Watch what you say.
Exactly. But look, in 2018, I really saw a gap in the Aussie podcasting space. There wasn't much in the way of Aussie podcasts for Aussies, by Aussies. And I think it was the right place, right time, right thing. I wanted to set out to create infotainment to hopefully entertain people and give them information and encourage them with their financial journey. And we're into our 6th year now, and we're doing well. We're still standing.
6 years, that's pretty impressive. It's just about as long as the Sharesies platform has been around, so know that a lot of hard work goes into those 6 years. It's no wonder why you're on the coffee train. You often speak on that podcast around the concept of loot, which I absolutely love, and it's about life on your own terms. I'd love to know more about that and maybe get some special insights that perhaps you haven't shared before, if that's possible.
Yeah, so it really came about 6-7 years ago when you met someone who was hardcore fiery, like into this financial independence, retire early. I'd met so many hardcore FIRE people in the States because I go to conferences up there once or twice a year. And to me at the time, this whole FIRE thing was keep your expenses really lean and just really pump your savings. And no discussion about, looking for a job you like or anything like that or starting your own business. So it was this whole paraphrasing, work really hard at something for 10 years, even if you don't like it, accrue enough money then to stop. And then you start living. Then you start the side hustle. Then you start the small business that you want to do. Then you have the freedom to do what you want. And I was thinking, why don't you just start living life on your own terms now without the financial pressure to amass wealth? Because I know, like many of your listeners, and you would know yourself, Demetria, money doesn't actually solve all your problems. And if you can get into this mindset where I like my life, I like my job, I like what I've got, and I'm living my life my way, I think that's a stronger argument than focusing on something for a medium term or long term, 5-10 years that you hate, grinding away, saving money, then to breathe out. So do it now. When I was a financial advisor, I had clients that would come in to my office and they would want to invest for the future. We want to buy shares, we want to buy property. And I'll be like, okay, that's awesome. And then I'd start to talk to them about their goals. I'm like, okay, so forget the investing part. What are some of your lifestyle goals? I'm like, well, we do want to maybe do some travel or start a business or start a family. I'm like, okay. And what I'm getting at is I developed what I call a sound financial house based on these discussions where we have to build our finances in the way that you build a solid house that would last the long term. In your mind, everyone, I want you to imagine the roof of a house. That's the investing. That is the shares, the property, the crypto, the complex investments. The walls of the house are your lifestyle goals. The floor of the house, or the slab, is in two parts, superannuation, and next to it, your career. Because everything that we do is built on our career and the money coming in the door. And we've all got superannuation, so I didn't know where to put it, so I just put it in the slab. Now, most builders and engineers will tell you for a house or a building, you need some decent foundations. And I teach 4 foundations. The first foundation is to be cashed up and debt-free. So no consumer debt, an emergency fund. The next foundation is to have a budget or a spending plan. We need to have some system that governs the money coming in and going out. The third foundation is a protection plan. We need to make sure if we can't work due to accident or injury, the money keeps coming into our spending plan. The fourth foundation is your wills and estate plan. So if we're building our sound financial house the right way, what that means is we do have an emergency fund. So if you're at a work and it's a toxic environment, you can be like, stuff this, I'm out of there. I've got 3 or 6 months of cash savings that I can just go see you later. It will stop you from just going to put all your money in investments where, hang on, if a lifestyle goal in 3 years' time is to start a business, well, I might not want to invest because I'm going to need that money. Likewise, doing the sound financial house in this order is, I've got an emergency fund, so when there is an emergency, I don't have to sell my shares at potentially a loss or trigger a tax event to get me through a 2 or 3 or 4 week period of time. So that's the whole structure there. And if I may finish this with within that, our personal budget and spending plan, the trap that people get into, and they get into this inflation creep and lifestyle inflation and all that stuff, we get to the point where we think luxuries are basic needs, and we start to fund luxuries as though we need them, where we need to get our priorities in order.
And that is such an important topic that we need to be having, particularly in today's environment where we are seeing the economic changes and the economic pressures on individuals and their budgets, is that creeping in to say, oh, actually, yes, even my gym membership is now a necessity, but actually, is there another way in which you can be fulfilling your health needs and your exercise needs that's perhaps less costly or free? Going for a run, going for a walk, enjoying the outdoors. And so it's so important to find that balance. With that in mind, how do you find that people then, in these times where it is tighter, people are approaching the loot lifestyle because they might be saying, well, life on my own terms is going to the gym, but then balancing that up against it actually might be a luxury in your circumstance?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I want to call out that we are talking on an investment podcast, right? And all this stuff that I'm talking to is setting up your life, your foundations, your financial structure. So when you allocate money to your investments, it can stay there for the long term. So the money doesn't get invested and is spoken for from car rego that we know is coming in a year's time. So, you know what I mean? So it's just about structure and process. So how to get onto the loot lifestyle, or even how do you say, I want to continue going to the gym in this tough economic times? Well, it goes back to the personal budget. I believe there are 4 main levers that everyone has in their own personal budget. The first lever is to increase income. So that could be, I want to keep the status quo with everything. I'm just going to go and increase my income. It could be getting a new job with a pay rise. It could be doing something on the side hustle, so increase income. The second thing, or the second lever that we can pull, is to decrease savings. If you are in a situation where you are saving money each month, each week, and you do want to keep because the cost of living is so savage right now, if you do want to keep the gym as a actual necessity in your life, the money has to come from somewhere. And if you can't increase income, well, we may need to decrease savings. The third lever that we can pull is, I call it like a line item in the budget, trimming down or restructure or a cutting back. So let's talk about the gym or the recreational, the health line item. I use this, one, because I'm not a sports gym buff. Two, it's easy to understand the concept. Gym health line item, you might say, okay, I'm paying a gym membership, I do a fortnightly PT session, and I do Pilates at another studio down the road. You might say, I'm reviewing this line item and I'm going to ditch Pilates and ditch the PT, just keep the gym and do my own thing. So we still have that. The next lever to pull is cut something out completely. I am removing that line item. I'm not having the gym. I'm going to do runs with friends. I'm going to do exercises in my garage. I'm going to watch YouTube and online type exercising. Now, this has opened a Pandora's box, because sometimes we need to actually pay for things to get the accountability to get it done. Not everyone is disciplined enough to do exercise on YouTube. So within all that, within your own budget, you can only increase income, decrease savings, review line items, or cut something out completely. If you want to get wild, you really could do all three: increase income, review a line item, cut something out completely without decreasing your savings. That would be the holy trinity, if you will, of budgeting.
Do you know, that is impressive. If you can hit that holy trinity. And because I know that it is one of those things where you do look at, and, this weekend I paid, I think it was $7.60 for a cup of coffee and almost fell over at the cash register. So perhaps I can look at cutting down that spending, which does lead me into the next question around particularly maximising our budget. Now, what is the difference between a budget and a spending plan?
Yeah, so a budget in my mind is, I literally have money coming in and it is allocated dollar for dollar. So it comes in, this goes to here, that goes to there. Every week I spend $30 at Woolworths or Coles, or that'd be a cheap little grocery session.
I want to come and do groceries with you if you're only spending $30.
Or whatever that is, right? For me, and the reason I call it a spending plan is because the word budget seems restrictive. It feels like it's a solid framework, and we hear the zero-based budgeting where you give every dollar a name and all that. That's cute, but life is fluid. Life is agile. I wanted to do a spending plan that allows you to have some type of control week on week, because if you're like me, guess what? Some months I'm not buying dishwasher tablets for $1 million. That might only happen every few months. So I've just got to go on balance. I probably spend this much on food or fuel. I've set my spending plan up so there's a separate bank account that is for just going out, entertainment, fuel, food and all that. I've resolved in my life, if I want to go out for a cafe lunch on a Sunday, guess what? If there's no money left in that account until the next day, I'll be happy to have cereal and toast for dinner. So it just really is that mindset. And the spending plan that I teach, and it's now free, anyone can do the online course, just Google the Glen James spending plan. It gives spenders like me a structure to save money week on week and see financial progress, make sure all their bills are taken care of. It gives savers permission to spend. And that is a big thing. If you're a saver, sometimes you feel guilty about spending that $5 or $6 3 times a week on a coffee.
So how do we switch our mindset, or a person switch their mindset from being just a saver and a spender to a saver, a spender and an investor?
Oh, gosh. I'm not Gandhi. Did you get confused?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't have
I thought
this.
It was for a moment.
Yeah. Man, I would actually say with great difficulty is the right answer. But look, what I've resolved in my own life and with hundreds and hundreds of people that I've taught money to on an individual basis, it's not about changing who you are. It's about acknowledging and knowing who you are and how you operate, and then building a system. Glen James, the founder of My Millennial Money, guess what? He sucks at saving money. I'm the worst saver on the planet. However, I've trained myself to be a fantastic investor because I've made the mindset that once money is committed to my investing account, because I've got the systems and processes in place in my life, that once money goes there, it is not spoken for in my day-on-day budget. If there's cash in my bank, if there's money in my wallet, guess what? It magically grows legs and disappears. I have a good time along the way, but it's a real problem that I had to address many years ago because years would go by and I kind of thought to myself, like, on a new year, it's like my goal at the end of the year is to have more money saved than the year before. It never happened because I'm a wild lunatic spender. However, I'm a really great investor.
How do you remove the temptation from touching the money that is in your investment account?
We'll talk about superannuation, for example. You can't touch that, but in terms of looking at the psychology around it, not checking it every day and, having access, I don't have any of the super apps on my phone. So it's just this out of sight, out of mind thing that we need to get used to. Because I kind of, how we're all addicted to Instagram? So what I did to really break my addiction, I actually found an old phone that I had, or my iPad even, and just had Instagram on my iPad at home. So when I'm out during the day, I just checked it once a day. Could you do that with the Sharesies app? Still have it, but we've got to uncouple ourselves from needing to check stuff every day. But in answer to your question, everything that we do when it comes to our money, what do they say? Lives and dies or rises and falls on your personal spending plan and personal budget, because you're only tempted to get that money to spend because you haven't accounted for car rego, you haven't accounted for a friend's hens weekend or a bucks weekend, you haven't accounted for an engagement party present.
And there have definitely been times where I have been so tempted to press the withdraw button because of an unexpected expense. And so I love the idea of perhaps out of sight, out of mind. But one of the great things as well is on the Sharesies platform, as well as potentially other platforms out there, there are features like auto invest, which means that you can set up that recurring payment. You already have it going in. It's coming in. It's going from your wallet. And guess what? You didn't even need to look at your Sharesies app to see that happening, which means that temptation to say, oh, the shoe sale's on. I think that if I was going to buy the shoes next week or wait for the next payday, then actually I wouldn't be getting as good of a deal. So I should just withdraw the money and get it now, because that's actually probably saving on my investment. But really, I'm going to forget about the shoes in 2 weeks' time altogether. So how do I remove that temptation? So I love the ideas that you've shared. This actually, I think, was one of the questions that came across our socials was,
cool.
What tips do you have for people who are trying to encourage their loved ones on their loot journey or their financial journey?
Yeah, so if we talk relationship loved one, not brothers, sisters, mums or dads, so we'll say you've got a spouse or partner, I think it's all got to be about, hey, what do you want our life to look like? What do you want your life to look like in a year? And it could be as simple as just asking those questions to actually get it out there. Now, we all want to get rich, right? But what does rich mean to you? It's like if, you're in Sydney, Demetria, at the moment. Yeah. If you were like, I want to go to Melbourne. Okay, that's fine. Melbourne's a big place. I could take you to Melbourne, but you might be nowhere near where you need to go. So I think it is defining what we are wanting and what are we aiming for. So a practical thing is in your relationship, maybe, and this is not a money talk. And because I think a lot of the time it's like, hey, baby, do you want to talk about money? It could be like,
which I shut down.
It's like,
somebody who works
really
in the financial industry, no, I don't want my evening to be chatting about money.
So what we need to do is come at it from another way. So what you might do is go, hey, baby, love you lots, all that stuff. Let's have a dreaming session one day or one evening or whatever. Let's just get pen and paper. Let's write down. We won't sit together. I want you to write down, what are you dreaming for or wanting in your life over the next 3 to 5 years? Just write it down. I'll do the same. Then I want you to write down, what do you want us to be doing in the next 3 to 5 years? And then you can both come together and compare notes. And I would say if there's overlap, you want to renovate the kitchen, I want to renovate the kitchen. Let's do the kitchen together. All right, how are we going to pay for it? Okay, we need to get a system in place. So don't go to your loved ones with the medication. Go with them going, let's do a health check. That was a bad analogy, but I think everyone vibes what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. I also think what you say around going with the medication, it can create so much turmoil for the person. And it's also assuming that your medication is the only medication out there. They might have great ideas that they can bring on board, and that can excite them on the journey. I think that's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing could be like, all right, we've both written down what we individually want, because I think couples need their own individual life and goals. What we want if there's a kid, as a family, and then as a personal thing. So there could actually be 3 columns that we each complete. And then what we need to probably do is triage. Okay, let's put in order. Let's number each of the things in each column in order and get an order. And then we need to do a brain dumping session on how we think we can achieve these and in what order.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of distilled it down. It's a funnel.
And I love that. I feel like you must be part of our conversations when you're talking about renovations.
Love what you did with the bathroom.
But speaking of looking at in spare time and bringing people on the journey, there are a lot of resources out there for investing newbies, and one of them being your amazing podcast. So if you have been investing for a couple of years, what can investors think about when they are ready to level up their game, and what resources could they lean into?
I think if you've been investing for a couple of years, I want you to maybe make a list of things that you've learned, because you're probably more advanced than what you think. So you'd be like, I invest in this, and that's the top 200 companies on the ASX. I know that. I know that the asset allocation is Australian equities. So I think, we get to the stage where we think the more that we grow in something, the more complex that it needs to be. And it doesn't have to be. You might have a portfolio. You think, I need to get more advanced. I've been doing this for a couple of years. Okay, shovel more money in there. How can you pump more money? I did a reel the other day, and it was just off the cuff, and it was kind of just a bit of a camera test, and I was like, I'll put it up anyway. I'm like, 3 things the 3 golden rules for investing. And I was making it up on the spot. I was like, rule 1, diversification. Rule 2, liquidity. And I was like, rule 3, do it often and do it for the long term.
Which you've nailed it.
That's all. We overcook things. The more that we're around it, we think we have to get more complex, but we don't. Just keep doing what you're doing. Focus on the shovel, which is your career, to generate the income.
Yeah.
So if you have been investing for some time, 2 or 3 years, go back, refresh. What do you know? Are you happy with the portfolio? And now, how do I revisit my goals, and how do I double down and shovel more money into that investment for the long term?
And that really touches upon what you said earlier around those different levers when we're looking at reducing our spending, but this is also a way to increase our investing capacity.
Yes.
And one of those levers being make more money. And so it is something that, isn't going to be for everyone. But if it is time to consider that move, that job change, that side hustle, whatever it may be, we can think of that as an option. And it is investing in your future too.
Absolutely. And that's the whole thing. Don't run from the life that you hate. Don't run from the job that you're not happy with. Run to something. Run to what you want.
So another question that does come up, and a topic that comes up quite a bit, is around passive income. And it can be something that is a bit difficult for people to wrap their head around. So do you mind explaining for our listeners today around what passive income is and how it becomes related to investing?
Yeah, so I think what passive income is the opposite to active income. So at the moment, a lot of people might be listening to this on the way to work. So for you to get that income in your life, it's an active trade-off. I have to go and effectively exchange my time, go to work for an hour, and they pay me for an hour. So that's quite active. You might have a side hustle or small business, and a lot of people think that their side hustle is passive income, where it's like, well, no, if you're selling widgets online or through Amazon and packing them up and going to the post office, that is quite active, I would say, because you're actually still doing it. Now, passive income, the first thing that we all know around passive income is if you've got money in a savings account, that interest that is paid every month, that is passive income. You have not done anything at all for that income to arrive. The ultimate passive income thing that you can do is invest in shares, because you are investing into a company, you own part of a company, and for owning part of a company, you will get part of the profit. Now, that means while you're at work, during your workday, doing your active income, I'm trading my time for money. During the same day, the market is open and I've got businesses that I own that are working, and I'll get a dividend or profit or growth from that investment. So the rule in life to make money, like how to get rich, is have as much passive income as possible. That's kind of like the short answer. So in your life, how do you start trying to understand passive income? And like there are things like, and this is so fascinating to talk about, because as humans, we need life and we need purpose, and it's not all about the money. Like if I won the $1 billion US Powerball tomorrow, and one, it would wreck my life, but two, I would still need purpose. So I'd still need to do something. But this all speaks to, like, in our own life, we need to kind of, get up that curve where we do have that critical mass in our life. So it's like, okay, I've got enough money for what I need to wake up of a morning, to live, and to not have any financial stress. Then you can start looking at passive income. So it is about building your life up. But the cool thing is, while we are working to our way to life on our own terms or loot, we can be actually going, look, I do want the career change, I do want the job change, I do want that. I can still carve off money every single week and buy companies with it to generate passive income. And then that income that I get from those companies, I put it back into the companies, and, the compounding interest on interest, the same thing. The dividends breed dividends.
Thanks so much, Glenn. There's been so much great insight, and our listeners are obviously very, very keen to hear more.
Yeah.
And so here we have some of our key listener questions. Now, talking about passive income, and you yourself have been a sole trader. I'm also a sole trader, so this question is one that I often have as well, which is, do you have any budgeting, saving, or passive income tips for sole traders? Because that income journey can fluctuate month to month.
Yeah. Oh, it's real, isn't it? The first thing as a sole trader, contractor, business owner is when you look at your personal budget that you set up or your spending plan, every single person has income that comes into their life, and every single person has expenses. They've got rent, they've got mortgage, they've got food, they've got fuel, they've got clothes, they've got kids. So regardless whether you are an employee or a sole trader, on the other side of it, you have income and expenses. So what we need to first do is separate the two. Really, really make sure with your sole trading business, ventures and all that, that it's got its own bank account. And the only money that comes into that is from the clients paying you. The only expenses that go out of that are related to the business. Then what I need you to do is build it up enough so you can get to the point where you are paying X amount a week or fortnight over to your own personal account. So then you can set up your personal cash flow like you would if you had a regular income. Now, if you have a sole trading business and you do have a little bit of cash handy, I would seed that sole trading account, because as a sole trader, it's on your tax return anyway, it's all you. Seed that with $10,000, seed that with $5,000, and set a weekly transfer every Friday over to your personal bank account. Do the Glen James spending plan, do all that. Then your only reason for living is to get as much money to that sole trader account as possible, because with the financial stress gone from the week on week paying bills, paying groceries, paying fuel, with all that financial stress gone, on the other side, you'll be more relaxed with your business ventures. So all that to say, separate accounts, and try and get to a regular income out of your business account as soon as possible.
So a final listener question that has come through on socials, which does connect in with doing some research, is where you do want to invest more ethically, but you don't know where to start. How would you even begin that journey?
Yeah, so what I would probably do is possibly, and I hate saying the G word, Google, but what if you searched Google top 5 ethical ETFs Australia? I just want you to start looking at a whole heap of different ETFs, because I'm a believer and a fan of ETFs, because and the extreme scenario, like you can get an ETF that is just lithium miners, for example, right? Sure, it's not diversified because it's all lithium miners, but within that, at least I've got 20 companies. So it's not just the one company, right? So you need to understand with your research that because there are, quote unquote, less companies that are, quote unquote, ethical, because what's ethical for you might be not ethical for someone else. So you need to have a look at different ETFs, and they'll show you what they're invested in, what they're tracking. There could be some ETFs, and I know one of them that they're not an indexed fund. They're an active manager ETF that's ethical. So it does kind of, with this, it pulls a bit of a thread, but what you need to just do is understand that at least if I'm investing into a conscious ETF or an ethical ETF, I might have to pay a little bit more in terms of fees. I might not get 200 companies. I might only get 50, and I might only get Australia only. So yeah, I just want you to understand that until we get to the stage where every single company is 100% ethical, there will be less choice. But it's knowing that I'm investing in this ETF, there are less companies that are in there, so the diversification isn't as much as 200, it's maybe 50. However, because I understand and I really believe in investing in these companies only and not these big, bad, dirty ones over here, I'm happy to take that extra risk. So yeah, lots in there. And then it goes one step further. If you can't find an ETF, a one-stop shop that suits you, you may have to build your own portfolio of direct equities, which comes and this is why we pull this thread, and there's a lot to unpack, but it's great that people are thinking about this stuff.
I agree, and I love when people ask questions like this. And you touched upon the G word, the Google, and you also touched upon something else, which is values. And for me, I sit there and go, the first thing actually is define what ethical means to you. Define what your values are around that.
Absolutely.
So with that, it's a great place to end, and we'll wrap it up there to give you all some time to sit back and think about your values and your investing and how to amplify those dividends and the dividends breed dividends. I think that's my favorite line from today's discussion with you, Glen. And thanks so much, everyone, for listening and sending through all your questions on our socials. If you're interested in learning more about the Sharesies app, you can head to the App Store or Google Play Store, or check out our website at sharesies.com.au. And if you do use the promo code MMM, it might stand for My Millennial Money, when you sign up, you'll even get a $10 bonus ready to kickstart your investing journey. So finally, thank you, Glen, so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge today. I hope that you had as much of a great time as what I did, and happy investing, everyone.